the minute the recording started.
Oh boy. You want to slow down. You rough day at work,
You
Swaggy,
look
or
like
what?
you came in hot last week. You're coming in hot again this week.
This has been the worst year. It's just
Almost
a year.
over.
Please.
I mean, it is.
Yeah, no, I know.
Christmas is already upon us. I'm sure Michaela might be putting up the decorations by now.
I actually had the Christmas guy called me last week. We got him scheduled for October 20th.
You're kidding me. Before Halloween?
That's what we did last year. We're the Christmas house on Halloween. Like I sit up there, I'm Santa Claus. I give out candy out of my Christmas bag. We have Christmas music blasting.
You like that?
It gives Michaela the reason
15%
to like decorate the house.
Is what you like. The pre-Halloween discount he gives you. Early bird special?
Well, no. Well, you know, I ain't gonna lie. I have a very good contact for this because if you look up how much it costs people to put up Christmas lights, you can get it up to like over $1,000 to do this stuff. This company that I use, the first time he comes out here, it's $750, but that is you buying the equipment and putting it up. Now every year I use him, it's half that. So every year I just pay the half that when he comes up here.
Now, did you have a lawyer look over the contract and slip and falls off the roof?
He has insurance. He has
Not
insurance.
the guy I
not
use.
like Sprouse over here who found some guys at the Walmart parking lot.
No, Home Depot. Listen, every dad knows this. You go to the Home Depot about 5:30 a.m. and there's a bunch of guys just sitting in trucks waiting to do some work for you. That's what I did. I found a couple guys with a ladder and a 96 S10. I said, hey fellers, you guys think you could put up some? I will tell you this, Jess. Does he charge you to take them down?
No.
Oh, okay, that's good. Because my guy was going to charge me to take them down, but I realized I could just go to the lowest corner and go boop, give it one good pull, and they all came. Jesus. I still got hooks on the roof though.
No, mine's a round trip rate. It works. Like last year, I had the most beautiful houses on the street, and so we have
houses. You got multiple?
Nightmare Before Christmas blasting. I got my little Lele and little Zero outfit, you know, from Nightmare Before Christmas, you know, and then me and Michaela are Mr. and Mrs. Claus, and the kids love it. Half the parents love it. Half the parents are like, "What are you doing?" But we enjoyed it. And then about 9 o'clock, Santa's pretty lit.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
You see some cute neighbor down the road. Why don't you come sit on Santa's lap real quick?
We had a line of people out front of our house, like just sitting Santa Claus. Like I pretty much just disrupted Halloween last year.
You need to start charging a fee and make up for the cost you're paying to put the lights up.
It's not a bad idea, Sprouse.
Great idea. $5 a kid.
$5.
Got to factor inflation these days, boys.
$10.
$10.
People pay a premium for that.
Anyway,
Jeff, we ready to get the show on the road? Yeah, I'm ready, pal.
Let's do it.
Tell me when. What's up, and welcome into the #1 Group of 5 football podcast in the world. This is the Group of 5 guys. Our mission is to be the voice for the Group of 5 football programs. Give them the hype, the excitement, the pride that the mainstream sports media refuses to do. We need your help to do that. Give us a like, subscribe, follow us on all the social media platforms at Group of 5 Guys, or go to groupof5guys.com and get you some swag. In this show, AAC preview, American Athletic Conference, all kinds of new stuff happening in this conference. Should be a really good time. Enjoy the show. Have you had it from somebody born and raised in Lafayette, Louisiana, at a tailgate? Doubt it.
Lee Corso is a guy who had a retirement party 10 years ago, and yet he still won't leave the office.
Projected getting drafted between the first and third round. Like, that's incredible. The wide receivers are absolutely stacked for the Group of 5.
I said Michael Pratt has got to show up and play. And boy, did he. 394 yards, 4 touchdowns, 48 rushing yards on the ground, and another touchdown.
I really appreciate you do for the Group of Five programs, and I think it's great. I think we should get more of this. But you guys are on the forefront of this, and
so I'm thankful for this. I'm glad that you're talking about the Group of Five because I think they get overlooked.
But it's a ton of fun to watch a guy go to the NFL from a Nevada or a Colorado State or a Middle Tennessee or an App State, and fans follow that kid.
I appreciate what you guys do, truthfully. Covering the Group of Five. Y'all said it earlier, but the Sun Belt to me is college football.
It is the month of August, and we have got some exciting stuff happening. We got everybody in camp. We got the conferences are falling apart, if you ask some. They're thriving, if you ask others. We got a big week with the Group of Five guys. We, of course, tonight have the American Athletic Conference preview. Tomorrow morning, we will be live from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, Middle Tennessee fall camp practice. Should have an interview. Should be talking to Coach Stock, hopefully talking to Coach Stewart, the OC, maybe a couple players we'll see, maybe an update on facilities. While we're there, I'd like to get a tour. Jeff, maybe if you could make that happen for us. And then later in the week, we got an interview with Colorado State offensive coordinator Matt Mumme. But guys, conference realignment. Over the weekend, shit just hit the fan. I mean, everybody's moving everywhere. Say what we want about the transfer portal. Now you got entire programs doing it, entering the transfer portal in the middle of the night, it seems like. So I got to get thoughts. I mean, so after this last round, we got 4 teams left in the Pac-12, and they're not good ones. And then it seems like the ACC that I thought was relatively strong. You got Florida State looking to bounce. You got to assume Clemson's looking to bounce. After that, I don't know. What are you boys thinking of this conference realignment, and how do you feel like the Group of Five stands after this last round? Swag Bear.
I'm not the biggest fan of change. You can ask my wife that. Like, I eat the same cereal. I rarely ever even change the same toilet paper. I'm always Continental soft. I don't like change.
Continental.
And then here we go with Texas and
Continental.
Oklahoma making the huge change. What?
It's Continental. Continental is a tire.
I said Continental.
No,
Listen,
you said
I said
Continental.
Continental. Continental. I know. Honestly, I'm bullcrapping. I think it's Charmin, actually. But anyway, Charmin Ultra Soft.
Man knows his TP.
I don't like change.
Anyway, sorry.
I don't like change. Texas and Oklahoma ticked me off back then. And let's be real, these guys are just trying to keep up with the SEC. And then the Big Ten goes out, snags some Pac-12 schools. And now the Pac-12, they're suffering. They're suffering. If I'm in the Mountain West, Sprouse, stay. Like a dog, stay. Keep those traditions alive. Keep those rivalries going. Build up your own conference. If I'm in the Mountain West, I am sure as shit not looking at the Pac-4 being like, you know what? Maybe we should go and join them, because people were saying brand recognition. I was fighting people on Twitter. Honestly, Mountain West, I feel like that brand recognition is just up there with the Pac-12. What has the Pac-12 done? What have they done for me lately? What have they done for NCAA lately besides having Heisman Trophy winner last year? The USC Trojans of 2003 and 2004, those days are over. Oregon had their run in the early 2010s. They haven't been anything special of late. If you ask me, the Mountain West with Boise State, Fresno State, etc., they have been making bigger names for themselves. So I really would appreciate Mountain West teams kind of hunker down, ride this out. Let these Power 5 teams make decisions, but these power conferences they're trying to make here, they're just chasing each other's tail, and I don't like the change. I don't like it.
It all started with the Texas Longhorns and the Longhorn Network back in the day when they started that, and that's what pushed all the Big 12 teams. That's what pushed Texas A&M to go to the SEC, Missouri to go to the SEC. It's what pushed Nebraska up to the Big 10, and so you blame Texas for that. Naturally, and now they're following suit anyways, going to the SEC. But I look at what makes college football special to me. We said it last year about the Sun Belt. I mean, you got rivalry games of schools that are a couple hours apart. And now these so-called power conferences, I mean, I just cannot – I can't even picture them playing Rutgers from Northeast United States and New Jersey playing UCLA every year. I mean, it just seems stupid. And I mean, I think it's dumb, but I do think the group of five is in a, if they ride it out, like you said, I think we are in a great spot.
Picture this like as a fraternity wise, right? Okay, you wanted to go and you wanted to be a beta so bad. You've always wanted to be a beta. And you go to bid day and they say, sorry, buddy, we're full. We don't need you. And then old beta here has 6 guys that says, screw you, beta, I'm out of here. Now they're coming knock on our door. Hey, San Diego State, we were just kidding. We'd love to have you back. We'd love to have you here in our fraternity. Boise State, we'd love to have you. We actually think the blue field's awesome. Screw you. I'm going to stay in the Mountain West. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing right here. I'm going to make this conference. If anything, I'll make this conference become a Power 5 conference. I'm not going to go and just jump ship because you're on the struggle bus right now and you're desperado. Not happening.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I hope they stay put, but at the end of the day, as all we've seen with these conference realignments, it's all about money and it's all about TV deals. That's what's driving everything. And I really think it's doing college football a disservice. And like you said, Sprouse, I mean, West Coast teams going to be flying out all the way to the East Coast. Like, and that might work for football at certain times, but what about all the other, sports that these colleges have? Women's volleyball, basketball, baseball, softball. Like, are they going to be, flying to, Rutgers on a Tuesday, then they got to go down to Clemson on a Friday? Like, I mean, you talk about, the health of athletes. It's not just physical health, it's mental health. Like that's a lot of time, in the plane. That's a lot of time on a bus, away from your studies, away from school, away from your families. Another thing is, I know a lot of kids don't go across the country to go to school. They stay local, so their parents or grandparents, they can come and watch their home game or watch their away game when they play their rival that's 3 hours away. I just think money is driving this. The TV deals are driving this, and I get it. I'm all for capitalism, but it doesn't mean that we just are a slave to that system. Like, we got to be doing things for the right reason. And I really do hope that the Group of Five conferences stay strong, band together, because those rivalries, in my opinion, that's what really makes, college football great and fantastic. Is it's still, a lot of it is still pure. You still have the rivalries that a lot of people grew up with and love. You start going across the country, you lose that. You lose a lot of the things that people love about college football, and it's almost turning it into like a semi-pro type situation, and it's just sad to see, honestly.
That's a slam dunk alley-oop right there, Jeff. And you made me think of something. All these Pac-12 schools that were probably struggling on keeping some guys at home, but that was what they had. They're saying, hey, look, we're going to keep you out here in Oregon or California, and you're going to play majority of your games here, so now your parents can come watch. What the hell does it matter now? Now you're going out to freaking Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ohio at least 6 times a year. Hell, you know what? I may just go ahead and go here and play now because I'm going to be there anyway. Maybe I don't like traveling on planes. I don't like flying. I don't want to fly back and forth, 6, 7 times. This may actually hurt them in recruiting more than it is going to help them. Just a thought.
There was a bunch of, I think it was Arizona State softball players that were tweeting about that. Like, the reason they stayed local is so that their families could come watch the games, and now that's out the window. The administrators, like, we're football guys, of course, but they're looking at this purely from a football standpoint. I mean, complete disregard to any of these other sports. And again, I'm a football guy. 9 times out of 10, I'm saying who cares, but this is a little bit out of hand. And then, Jeff, you brought up, this is kind of where I think this is heading. You brought up making this semi-pro minor league kind of system. And in my opinion, in a few years, what you're going to see is the same, 6, 8, 10 teams that are already doing what they're doing. The Georgias, the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Clemson. They're still going to be at the top of the food chain. And these other schools, these, we mentioned Rutgers, these Wake Forest, Arizona State, like, nobody watches the current minor league football. Nobody's watching the USFL. Nobody's watching the XFL. So why are they going to keep doing? I mean, I just feel like it's going to turn into that, and you're going to see these 8 to 10 teams completely dominate and dominate even more than they already are. And then you go and you look at the group of 5. You talk about these great rivalries. Great rivalry. 90% of the reason a rivalry is good is because you have two cultures that are either close in proximity or they're very similar in the way that their cultures are, and they pull for their school because they're a couple hours apart. That's what you have in the group of 5, and that's what you are losing especially the Big Ten. I mean, the SEC at least is relatively in the South still. The Big Ten is just all over the place.
Yeah.
I'm looking at tweets right now. Sorry, Jeff, just recent tweets. And right now it's all talk about American Conference taking on those 4 teams. And somebody was joking around saying, "Hey, honey, let's go watch the Owls of FAU take on Washington State this weekend," and showed us literally the farthest distance possible from one corner of the country to the other.
Yeah, I don't know how that.
I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
Whoever your record is, whatever, the away team is going to lose that game 99% of the time.
Yeah, and then the last thing I'll say about it, and we got a whole conference to cover, but it's like it's fine for football. Football has a private charter. All these other teams, when they have to fly in a plane, they're flying like Southwest or Delta. Like they're not getting onto the tarmac, walking onto the plane.
They're getting on Spirit with these schedules.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's not as easy as a process as just, hey, be at this point, the bus is going to take you directly to the airport, you get on the plane, and it's just turning into a mess.
Well, yeah, we got to hit the American Conference here, which is a damn strong conference. A lot of new teams, a lot of new coaches, everything. But Jeff, we got to give a shout out to Southern Roots Radio. They're playing our show live, I think, on Wednesday nights. But Jeff, if you got a word on that.
Are you tired of listening to the same music playlist? We got just what you need. Southern Roots Radio is an audio magazine rooted in Americana, curating music, culture, and sports to a stubbornly independent audience. Go check them out at southernrootsradio.com, or you can download their brand new app. You can find it on the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. Southern Roots Radio. Come on in and stay a while.
You're a damn professional, Jeff.
I hear that commercial. I want to go to the bar, order a Vegas bomb, and smoke a cigarette. Like I feel like I'm ready
where I was going with it.
I feel like I'm just sitting out there on Broadway, just having a good old time.
Oh man,
good.
Yeah, that's good. Shout out to Southern Roots Radio. Give them a follow, give them a listen, give them a shout. We got one voicemail, I believe, on the American Conference. You guys call that hotline, 615-900-4286. Next week, we got Sunbelt. I know we got some callers from the Sunbelt that are going to keep your thing. Keep it one call. Keep it 3 minutes or less. We'll play it on the show. We'll do our best to play all of them. But, Jeff, what do we got for this one?
Got one call from a boy, Zach, who's a Liberty fan, but he has a pretty good take on the American Conference. So we'll get right to it.
What's up, guys? Zach Green at ZG Go Flames on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Hope you guys can hear me. I'm driving on I-95 right now. It's a little bit loud, and I'm talking through my potato, as one of my Liberty fan friends called it. Shout out to Ben Reynolds and Fan the Flames Football Podcast if you're listening. But anyways, I just wanted to ask you guys a big question at the end of this, but also give a couple of thoughts about some AAC teams. First, I'll start with SMU, and I got to show them some love because they've got a few guys on that team and on that staff that really meant a lot to us at Liberty. We'll start with Scott Simons, the defensive coordinator. He had a heck of a defense back in 2020. That defense was incredible. That was Malik Willis's coming out party, but that defense was amazing. And shout out to Scott Simons for that. He left, I believe, I don't remember, but it was a couple of years ago. And then after last season, when Hugh Freeze left, he took a couple of our defenders with him. Quarterback Chris Meganson, who was a major contributor and a starter. I had the privilege of teaching him as a student teacher when he was in high school, trying to pick which college he wanted to go to. Thankfully, he picked Liberty, but now he's a grad transfer out there at SMU. Look for him to make a big impact. And then also got to show some love to Ahmad Walker, who was the third on the rung for as far as number of tackles on our defense last year. He transferred out there to rejoin with Simons. So just got to show some love to SMU. It was sad they left, but no hard feelings. Looking forward to seeing what they do this year. And then I also got to show some love to the ECU Pirates. I'm originally from Eastern North Carolina. I grew up an NC State fan, still pulled for them secondarily to Liberty. NC State's my nephew now, whereas Liberty's my son. That's at least what I say. But so I'm supposed to hate ECU, but you know I really don't. Because they're about 45 minutes from where I grew up, I've got some love for them, and I want them to succeed. They've got a big stadium down there compared to a lot of Group of Fives. They've got some diehard fans, and I don't think they're expected to be really high in the AAC this year, but I got to show them some love. They've got good fans and got respect for them, and some don't. Keep your hands off of them. I know you'd love to see them there, but they're not coming unless they have to. And then the third thing I want to get to is just what in the world do you guys think is going to go on with realignment in the Group of Five? There's got to be some coming, I would think, at least affecting the Mountain West. So I want to see what you guys think about that. And as always, thanks for what you do. Got some thoughts about the Sun Belt next week. Liberty's had some really good success against them, so I can't wait to call back for that. But anyways, thank you guys.
Appreciate it, Zach.
Yeah, we kind of already answered the question on the realignment. I think Liberty is in a really good spot with whatever happens, just because of the financials that they have. And they got a chance to be like BYU with a nationwide fan base just due to the religious aspect of it. So, but anyway, that's all I got on that. Thanks for the call.
Absolutely. Keep
So
them coming.
Yeah, keep those calls coming. 615-900-4286. Let's get to the American Conference. Last year, of course, Tulane, monster run, beat USC in the Cotton Bowl on a freaking play was reviewed. I mean, what an awesome game that was. You lose Tyjae Spears, but Tulane's got a pretty good team coming back. You get all these new teams coming in. New teams, UTSA, FAU, North Texas, Rice, Charlotte, and UAB. And then on top of that, you got all these new head coaches, many of them first-time ever head coaches. New coaches coming to this conference. You got Tom Herman at FAU, Brian Newberry at Navy, Eric Morris at North Texas, Trent Dilfer, of course, at UAB, our guy Biff Poggi at Charlotte, Alex Golish at South Florida, and Kevin Wilson at Tulsa. So this conference is just, I mean, brand new. New teams, new coaches, new rosters. You know, it could go a number of different ways. I'm not entirely sure what everybody's thoughts are on this. I'm going to go around the horn. As always on these conference previews, biggest question mark for 2023, Jesse Grisham. What do you got?
Yes, I knew I was going to be first this time. So you mentioned Tulane, awesome season last year. Willie Fritz, you know, he bounced back from a 2021 season that didn't exactly go exceptionally well. So my big question for Tulane is, can they be consistent? Is it going to happen again? Was it just a fluke? And to be honest, I don't think so, guys. The offensive line for Tulane, they're not only the best in the American Conference, they're the best offensive line in the Group of Five. They got 4 starters coming back, including Sincere Haynesworth and Prince Pines. But they also have LSU transfer Cameron Wire, who was a spot starter for LSU throughout last year's season. The guy's like 6'6", 305 pounds. The guy's a beast. Michael Pratt's back. Of course, we all know what he did last year. 3,000 yards passing, 27 touchdowns, only threw 5 INTs, and he had an exceptional game, as Jeff talked about in one of our podcasts last year in the bowl season, against USC. Tyjae Spears is gone, but they have extreme depth at the running back position, and it's going to be easy to run the ball behind that offensive line. So I really like Tulane this year. I think that they are going to be in that talk about New Year's 6 games. We'll get into the schedules later, but will they be able to answer? Will they win the games that they're supposed to win? They were able to do that last year, and it was a struggle. You know, it's hard to win football games in college. like we were at Charlotte with Will Healy. It's hard to win. It's very hard to win. Can they do that again this year? I think they do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest question mark for Tulane is how do they respond now with all these expectations? I mean, everybody forgets they were awful
Awful.
before last
Two
year.
wins. Two wins.
Yeah, and I know they had, they were playing at
It's a
I think in
hurricane season, they
Birmingham.
call
Yeah,
it.
I think they were practicing and stuff in Birmingham. So,
Yeah.
call it what you want. But now everybody's got the target on Tulane. And how
Yeah.
do they respond?
And another question is going to be about that defense. They lost Dorian Williams last year, who was one of the top tacklers in the group of 5. From research wise, they're going to have talent coming back on defense. So, and their schedule, for my opinion, pans out to where they can be successful. And I'm looking forward to watching them in 2023.
I like their schedule a lot. I think their
Yeah.
non-conference, I think that week 1 game versus South
That's huge.
Alabama is arguably the biggest non-conference group of 5 on group of 5 game of the season.
Yeah. And what I hate too, Sprouse, and sorry to keep on talking over you, but what I hate is week 1's determining seasons. But for me, honestly, if they lose that South Alabama game, I don't think they have that much confidence going into Ole Miss. And then they start out 0-2, and then they take on a Southern Miss Eagles team we're going to talk about next week, who I have as a dark horse. I'll tell you right now. What's the word I'm looking for? Spoiler alert. Thank you. I have Southern Miss next year. They're going to be really good and Sun Belt. So the first 3 games were pretty tough, but if they can win against South Alabama, start out hot, I like the way their schedule's set up.
Yeah, I mean, I think the good news for them is they got Michael Pratt at quarterback, and that dude's just a gamer, like we talked about. We saw it versus USC in that bowl game. It's when talk about rising to the occasion. So now I think they got a little bit of pressure. I like Willie Fritz. I like Michael Pratt. I love that offensive line. I had that right here in my notes. Offensive line is the best in the conference. And you said it, they might be the best in the group of 5 too. So I like Tulane a lot. I think they're definitely in the mix. Murph, I'm going to go to you next. Biggest question mark, biggest storyline in the American.
Yeah, I'm going to go with UTSA. New team coming in. They've dominated Conference A the last 2 years, winning 2 Conference USA championship titles. Can they continue that dominance in the American Conference? And it all starts up, with their offense, in my opinion. 12th in the nation in total offense last year, 13th in scoring, which is absolutely incredible. And it's led by their starting quarterback, Frank Harris. I think this guy's absolutely dynamic. He had over 4,000 yards passing last year, 32 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. That's a pretty good ratio considering how much they do throw the ball, and then added another 600 yards on the ground rushing with 9 touchdowns added onto that. They do lose Zachary Franklin, their top receiver. It's a lot of production to replace, but luckily they are not short at all on weapons on offense. Top 2 other receivers coming back, Josh Cephas and JT Clark, both almost had 1,000 yards last year. Plenty of touchdowns. You got Oscar Cardenas, their tight end, coming back. And then I think who's the biggest sleeper on this offense, in my opinion, we saw him in the championship game last year against North Texas, had a fantastic game. I think Kavorian Barnes, their running back, I think he's an absolute stud. I think he's a rare combination of size and speed. He does not go down easily with arm tackles at all. And they're going to rely on him a lot more than they have in the run game in the past because they have him there. And then on defense, their linebacker, Trey Moore, led the defense with 8 sacks, 5 pass deflections on that D-line. He's a linebacker hybrid, comes off the edge a lot. And they lost some pieces on defense last year, but I think they're going to be just fine. And then coming into this American Conference, I just think they're going to compete right away. I think they're going to answer the bell, and they're going to have a great season.
I mean, they've got it's got to be one of the best skill position groups in the country. I mean, group of 5, power 5, with Frank Harris with the 2 receivers, with Barnes at running back. They're loaded. Their schedule to me is similar to Boise State's, how I talked about last week, where it's really good, but it's not like impossible. I know they got that game at Tennessee week 4, which, we talked about it a month ago, and now some of the national media is starting to look at that game, saying the same things we're saying. That's I mean, it's a big if. It's a big if. But if they can get by Tennessee, look out.
I want to go on record here and say I think this is the first time in college football history where a school enters a new conference and has like majority of the preseason all conference players being from a new school in that conference.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say too is I think what one of their biggest advantages is Jeff Traylor. I mean, he's shown since he's shown up there that he's been able to build a culture, get top talent into San Antonio. And other than Sakari Franklin's their biggest guy, like leaving in the portal, he's been able to keep these guys. So, and he's done a great job in the community down there in San Antonio. So I hope he stays around and continues to build down there, because as we saw last year, that Alamo Dome is an awesome atmosphere to play in. And any team that has to go in there and play, it's not an easy out.
There's some talk about them putting a stadium either on campus or closer to campus. And a lot of people on Twitter were all up in arms about it because, yeah, like that dome was rocking. And why would you're going to put in the event that this is not a 10, 11, 12 win team, and now you're going to put them outside and it's going to be 105 degrees on a Saturday afternoon. You're not going to get that same atmosphere if you do that. So I get it. I'm all about on-campus stadiums. I'm all about like having your own college stadium, but you got one that's working for you. And the tailgate scene is fantastic. They got those little scooters everybody can ride around onto the bar scene afterwards. I wouldn't change that. I mean, you already got fantastic facilities. Don't waste your money.
Yeah.
I mean, figure out something else to invest in. Tyler Tipton, 2023 biggest storyline or question mark for the American. What you got?
So I'm looking at 3 teams here in the American, and I'm looking at their conference and non-conference schedule, and I'm looking at Tulane, UTSA, and SMU. Does an undefeated season by any of these 3 teams get them into the college football playoff this year? So we were just kind of talking about, some of these teams' schedule, but I mean, you're looking at UTSA. They open up week 1 at Houston, and then have Texas State at home, Army at home, and then that big week 4 game at Tennessee. Tulane, we talked about it week 1. They have South Alabama. Ole Miss comes to Tulane, and then they're at Southern Miss. And then SMU, they're non-conference. Louisiana Tech comes to SMU at Oklahoma, which I'll talk about later. That's a very winnable game, in my opinion. And then at TCU, I know TCU is a very good team. And SMU might hurt them. I don't know, might not. They don't have to play UTSA or Tulane this year. So looking at those 3 teams and that schedule, all 3 of their schedules, which team do we think has the best chance to go undefeated? And if one of them does go undefeated, is that enough to get them into the college football playoff?
Tulane, yes, because of what they did last year.
Correct. Yep.
Reminds
me a lot of Cincinnati. And that'll be
or like UCF. You gotta have 2-3 years in a row, because they're going to start the season probably 23 or 24, which is also stupid because USC is going to start the season at like number 5.
Yeah.
And how they get, I get it. They got Caleb Williams coming back, but Tulane's got a bunch of guys coming back too. They just beat Caleb Williams, but that's neither here nor there. They got to climb the ladder. But
UTSA, they're going to look when they play Tennessee. Like Tennessee, for some reason, had a horrible year and they were like 6-6. Well, when they play UTSA week 5, they're going to look at it like, was Tennessee ranked in the top 25? If they by some chance they beat Tennessee, then they go undefeated. Damn straight, they're going to be in that New Year's 6. They're going to be in the playoffs. UTSA.
I don't know how they wouldn't be. I think it's going to be really hard for UTSA to do that. I'm not going to say it's not possible, but I mean, like you said, Tip, you beat Houston. That's a big win. And then at Tennessee, they're going to be ranked. I think Tennessee, so they play Florida the week before. So that's like a huge rivalry game. And that's in Florida. It's in Gainesville. So that's going to be a physical, I mean, a lot of energy spent. in that game, right? And then they have San Antonio. But after they play San Antonio, South Carolina comes to Knoxville. South Carolina beat Tennessee last year. So it's almost this perfect, like, stars aligned kind of deal where I don't think the coaching staff's going to overlook San Antonio at all. I could see the players who are coming off the Florida game and are looking to get revenge on South Carolina, and they think, San Antonio, the Roadrunners, these guys aren't good. Like, we're gonna crush these guys. And that high-powered offense can come in if they can put some points up, hang around. I could see it. That'd be an awesome moment. And at that point, you just got to handle business.
See, I could see UTSA beating Tennessee. I really could because of all those factors. But I sort of disagree with Swag on that point. If they beat Tennessee and Tennessee ends up 7-5, or they're not very good, then at the end of the year when the committee gets together, they're gonna be blah. Oh, Tennessee wasn't that good. Now, if
they look at it what they were ranked when they played them.
Nah, not when it comes to UTSA, they won't.
Not
maybe not
exactly.
UTSA,
not to the group of five. They won't.
Okay.
I'm with you. If Florida beats them,
in the rule books, that's what they look at.
Here's your conversation. Ready in freaking December, middle of December, whenever it is. Florida, I mean, they beat Tennessee, number 6 Tennessee, and then they're going to look at UTSA that beats them next week, the following week. Well, Tennessee wasn't very good. They were 500, blah, 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 blah. But I'll say this. I think UTSA, they also will need Tulane to have a really good record.
Exactly.
Too. Yeah. They need each other.
That's what the American has going for them.
Now, if SMU, on the other hand, if they beat Oklahoma and TCU, both on the road, I mean,
Tiffin says that you think that SMU's beating Oklahoma. Is that what you said you were going to weigh in on later?
Yes, that is correct. I think that is a winnable game.
I agree with you, Tip.
No, of course you do.
I really do.
I hope so.
I'll talk about it later.
I like SMU. Anyway,
well, Oklahoma was pretty much dog ass.
They were bad, yeah. But see, there you go. I'm doing it too. I'm falling into the brand bias. I'm like, oh, Oklahoma though. Oklahoma was terrible last year.
Well, I know, but it was what's his face's first year. Yeah. There's a lot of hype in Oklahoma.
I think that's going to be a tough one.
We'll see.
Hey, my biggest question mark. So we look at this conference. We look at all these new teams. Who's going to come out of the middle of it and replace the Cincinnatis, the UCFs, the Houston? So we know Tulane's going to be good. UTSA is coming in. We know they're going to be good. So who's next? Is it SMU? Is it Memphis? Is a lot of people are high on FAU? Is it North Texas, who everybody's forgetting played for a Conference USA championship a year ago, even though they were 7-7 or whatever? So who's going to come out of the middle of this conference and compete at the top? Or is it going to be nobody and we're going to see Tulane, UTSA, and that's it? Now, Tip thinks SMU's beating Oklahoma. I don't know about that, but I love SMU this year. I think Tip mentioned it. They don't have to play UTSA or Tulane. So we'll talk more about them later, but I love SMU. I also think Memphis is that team that belongs in that category. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about them later, but that's my question. Who's going to come in? Who's going to do it? Swag, you're nodding your head like you're fired up. Or are you just saying that just because?
No, I am, because there's a team there, but I'm not going to prolong this segment. We'll get to it later. There's a team that you mentioned earlier that I do think that's going to replace some of those lost conferences. Some of those lost teams.
You got a dark horse.
I got a dark horse. I'm fired up for it. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, let's go quickly through this. Players to watch. I go to you, Swag, first. Who you got players to watch in the American?
Best player in the conference. He's the center. He's on the best team in the group of 5. Spencer Hainsworth. Love the guy. Talked about him in previous podcasts. He's going to be probably center for the Raiders one day. He's going to be a second, third round pick. He's going to be amazing. Really smart. Jermaine Brown Jr. from UAB, running back, y'all. I think he's going to be a fantastic player for the American Conference. He was good in the Conference USA. He was a backup last year, but he's going to be started this year. I'm excited to see this guy tote the rock. Jalen Johnson, wide receiver, East Carolina, originally from Georgia. Look for him to put up some big numbers. But guy that I'm really excited for out of the Rice, Mr. McCaffrey, Luke McCaffrey. He's got JT Daniels throwing that rock to him. He's going to be a slot receiver. I see this guy just putting up numbers. They may not win a lot of games, but they're going to get first downs or 5-yard gains by doing a little in route. and he's going to have a fantastic year. I like Luke McCaffrey.
I thought last week you said that anybody could run a good route. Didn't he say that?
He did. He said, I could
Yeah, he
run
did.
that route.
Yeah.
I've watched his brother play football many years in the NFL. If he
his
is
brother.
even a bit of like Christian McCaffrey, the guy's going to have a fantastic year. And if you look at his stats, he's progressed every year. Their issue with him is they've had a horrible offensive line. They have not been able to get the ball to him. JT Daniels comes back. You know, I know they had the issues with him last year. I remember, but he's going to be here at Rice, and hopefully, he's going to get him the ball. I'm sure the guy's going to get 15, 20 targets a game.
What about his dad? He was a good receiver.
Remember that injury? Remember when
Ed
he got
McCa-
hurt?
Oh, yeah.
He was like the
Yeah.
first like serious ACL tear. It was him and then Willis McGahee.
He played for the Washington Redskins.
Broncos.
Ed McCaffrey.
Ed McCaffrey.
Ed.
Yep.
Oh, Ed. Big Ed. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I like all those guys. I like JT Daniels going to Rice. That's a really interesting transfer destination for JT Daniels. So I'm excited. And Rice, don't forget, last year started out, what were they, 4-1 or something to start the year?
4-0. That's what they were starting out at.
So they
I remember us having that Conference USA talk. I was like, they're going to win one game, and wrong.
They started out hot, but then they just fell off a cliff a little bit. Murph, who you got players to watch?
I got 3. I'm going to go offense, defense, and a transfer that I'm looking at. Offense, SMU receiver Jordan Curley. He's going to be the top guy coming back. 6'2", 190 pounds. He had 37 catches last year, almost 600 yards and 6 touchdowns. SMU lost a lot of receivers last year, and the way they throw the ball, this guy, I have a feeling, is going to get a ton of targets. Now, Preston Stone is going to be their quarterback. He's kind of unproven, filling Tanner Mordecai's shoes, who transferred. That is a lot of production to mimic. Can he do it? I think he can. I think he's going to do a good job, but look out for Jordan Curley. Defensively, Temple linebacker Leighton Jordan. This guy is an absolute stud at linebacker. He had 9 sacks last year, 3 forced fumbles. And if Temple's going to make the rise and compete in this conference, he's going to have to be the focal point of that defense, hold it down in the middle, get pressure on quarterbacks, and especially the quarterbacks in the American, because you know how much they like to throw the ball. So I think he's going to be a fantastic player, and he's going to build off of what he had last year. And
Temple,
then
Jeff, linebacker you.
It's starting to look it's starting to look that way, don't it?
Mm-hmm.
And then my last guy to keep an eye on is, so Tulane lost 4 out of their top 5 pass catchers last year. And again, with Michael Pratt being one of the top quarterbacks in the country coming back, somebody's going to have to get those targets at receiver. Incoming transfer, Dante Fleming out of Louisiana. He's not a flashy guy, but he runs great routes and he has great hands. I think he's going to get a ton of targets for Tulane. Look out for him to have a big year. Coming from Louisiana, who struggled at times throwing the ball last year. So Dante Fleming, keep an eye out for him down at Tulane.
Love it. Tip, who you got players to watch?
So I got a couple of guys. Tulane running back, Shoddy Clayton Johnson. So he should be the starting running back now after Tajay Spears has gone to the NFL and got drafted by my Tennessee Titans.
Great
Tighten
pick.
up. And so Mr. Clayton Johnson last year, he had 57 carries for 333 yards. That is 5.8 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns. So with Tajay Spears gone, Clayton Johnson should be the starting running back this year. And what we've been talking about this whole podcast, Tulane's offense should pick up right back where they left off last year. They're going to be a great offense, and I think he's going to have a great year this year. Transfer I'm looking at, Chandler Rogers, quarterback for North Texas. He transferred from Louisiana Monroe. This is a dual threat quarterback, and he's a veteran. He's been around for a little while. Last year, he threw for 2,403 yards, 15 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. And running the ball, he had 145 carries for 353 yards and 5 touchdowns. So I look for him to come into North Texas and make an immediate impact on that offense. And I think North Texas is going to be sneaky good this year.
I think they are as well, Tyler Tipton. I think North Texas. I think there's a couple teams out in the Lone Star State that could make a nice little run. Um, I've got three as well. On the offensive side of the ball, SMU running back Jalen Knighton, Deerfield Beach High School, Broward County product. I actually know his former guidance counselor. Great football player. Not entirely sure about the classroom, but really good football player. He's not a guy, I can't remember who we were talking about that transferred Miami to Florida and wasn't really getting a bunch of carries. Jalen Knighton was getting some toting the rock at Miami. Had over 1,200 yards there in his 2 years. So he's a big time player. Defensive side of the ball, I've been talking about the guy for 3 years, Evan Anderson, baby. Defensive tackle, FAU, 356 pounds. If FAU
Jesus.
yeah, if
He's really
FAU
356.
oh, he's
Good
a
Lord.
dude, just
He's a
put on the tape. I'm an eye test guy. I'm not really a kind of guy that's going to pull up all the numbers and stats. And I'm telling you, I say it on multiple podcasts. Middle Tennessee at FAU down there 2 years ago. Both teams were 5-7, and that kid was the best player on the field, and he was a true freshman, and he was an absolute monster. So Evan Anderson at FAU, hopefully he could stay healthy. And then last and certainly not least, I texted you guys about this fellow last year, Temple quarterback E.J. Warner. Murph talked about Temple's linebacker. I'm going to talk about the quarterback. Temple is another team that could be sneaky good. They've got to figure out turnovers on both sides of the ball. Warner's got to cut down the turnovers on offense. The defense is going to have to figure something out to get some turnovers. Otherwise, they're going to be playing in front of 300 people in the Philadelphia Eagles Stadium, and it ain't going to be good. So, but I like EJ Warner. The fact that that guy hasn't transferred yet is impressive, in my opinion, because I'm sure he was getting DMs. What's up, Swag? You look like you were leaning in. You're about to say something. Maybe give me an eye roll.
No. I like your pick. It's more
thanks.
your next segment that I know I'm about to get 3 eye rolls and probably piss off a lot of people.
Well, Jesse, any coaches on the hot seat? Who you got?
I don't have anybody on the hot seat, but there is one guy in particular I'm very interested to see what happens after this year. The game has changed, fellas, and NIL and transfer portals are making a huge difference. And I've seen it happen too many times. A new guy comes into a new school, and if he makes a huge impact, big brother schools are looking to see if they can then fill in a spot. I am talking no other than a Biff Poggi. If he comes into Charlotte, who's projected to only win 3 wins, and he comes in, fellas, and he actually upsets Maryland, or may I say Florida, let's say he gets 6 or 7 wins, goes to a bowl game, and then wins that bowl game. There's 3 coaches in the Big Ten right now that are pretty much on the hot seat. And it's going to start out with Tom Allen at Indiana. He ain't going to last after this year. And then if Poggi actually beats Maryland, Mike Loxley, he may go to Maryland, which is back home for him, Sprouse. And then team number 3, Mr. Rutgers. I'm telling you, Rutgers they have a good coach with Greg Schiano. However, they're not winning like they want to. If they realize that the NIL and transfer portal is the way to go and the way that this guy can recruit players, they may snag Bitpoji from Charlotte. He preaches about wanting to be at Charlotte. He loves the Bank City. However, we will see. I've seen a lot of coaches come in to a group of 5 school say, this is my home. But then money talks, fellas, and we'll see what happens. I think he's going to be in the Big Ten if he has a successful year his first year at Charlotte. Long shot, because I know they got a pretty tough schedule. But if he wins like 6 or 7 games and goes to a bowl game, I would not be surprised if that guy is on the next plane to the Big Ten.
I don't know what to think about Charlotte and Biff Poggi. I like the guy. You know what he's starting to remind me of? Like, did y'all see the little cookie review he did? The Jersey Mike cookie review? He, in a weird way, like, so you have the video where he's yelling at the media, right, about picking them last or whatever. But then you have that side of him where he's laughing and joking with the players. And in a weird way, it reminds me of how you see like Saban is kind of like that in a way where like he's saying the opposite to the media as he's treating his players. Like where, if the media is talking trash, he just goes in on them, and he's getting the buy-in from those guys. But I don't know. I don't know if Maryland or
You're
or
not
Rutgers are
deserting your
the
players anymore either. You're not, because these guys that he brought in, if they have another year, guess what? He'll just take
yeah,
them.
they'll come with
He'll
him.
take them to
Yeah,
Rutgers.
but those are
He will
none of
get
those
back home to
places
the
are the de
Northeast.
facto #1 banking city in the world. That's
It's very true.
If he has all his eggs in the basket for Charlotte, fine. Or it could be his first Division I spot as a head coach.
I think he'd really have to like just have a crazy good season.
You're right.
Because I think he's gonna be at Charlotte for a little while. I think he likes Charlotte.
yeah.
Seen it.
Yeah, I feel like it'll have to be like a double-digit turnaround, just because I feel like some of those ads are not going to want they're not going to want the antics that he has.
Well, it's also his
I don't
first
know.
D1 head coaching gig. So
But it
it's
comes
like,
back to what I said first, though. It's the game has changed. It's all about the transfer portal.
Yeah.
He can get these guys to come to his school. Wait, the talent he's brought to Charlotte.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, hey, they say, hey,
probably
look,
not.
come be
Probably
the
not. I'm
head
about to put a
coach,
lot of
but
hell. But
hire, a veteran OC, a veteran DC. He also, man, I don't want to talk about Poggi all the time, but somebody tweeted, like, dude, I don't care if you can't coach, but like you just keep the media, keep the eyes on Charlotte. And Poggi responded and was like, I can coach. He's confident, dude. I'm telling you. Anyway, Murph, what about you? You got anybody on the hot seat or anybody in that route moving on to greener pastures?
well, I think we talked about Tulane earlier. I think if they just have another fantastic year, I know Willie Fritz he's been up and down, the last 5-6 years at Tulane, but with a huge, championship last year, beating USC, if they have another fantastic 10-win season, another big bowl game win, I could see people not, calling his phone and trying to get him to go to a Power 5 school. I could definitely see that, especially when Tulane is the best school in the state of Louisiana. Tiger donors, they don't like that. They don't like that one bit.
Well, yeah, it's not a bad move.
I hope
Tip,
he doesn't.
No, yeah, I feel like he's got a nice little home there at Tulane. Tip, what about you, coach on the hot seat, coach moving on to one of these power conferences?
Yeah, so I have one of each. Coach on the hot seat, I have Rice head coach Mike Bloomgren. He's entering his 6th season as head coach. He has a 16-39 overall record at Rice. Last year they went 5-8, and that is his best record in the 5 seasons that he's been at Rice. You got JT Daniels coming in, you got Luke McCaffrey already there. This offense should be good. They should win 6 or 7 games, and they should go to a bowl game, and they have a chance to win the bowl game. If that happens, I think he continues to be the head coach. But if they don't make it to a bowl game, I think he's going to be on the hot seat. Another coach, kind of what Jesse was just talking about, this first year head coach. I think if he has instant success in year 1 or year 2, it's UAB head coach Trent Dilfer. I think he if maybe not this first year, but that second year, if he gets UAB to 10 plus wins, I think he's going to be getting some phone calls.
But Tip, we have on record that he said that he wanted to be at UAB. He'll never leave UAB. UAB's his dream school.
He cut himself off before he said that, Jesse. He didn't say it. That's it, man. All these first year coaches. So I got to also on the seat getting a little warm, I think, in Memphis. Ryan Silverfield. They were 12-2 in 2019, played Penn State in the New Year's Bowl, and they've been pretty average since then. 6, 7, and 8 wins. And they have there's no reason for them not to be at the top of this conference. So I look at his seat. If they have another less than 9-win season, I think his seat will be getting warm. And then same thing on a first year in this conference, Tom Herman at FAU. Now, he's a guy that obviously 5-6 years ago was the hottest name in coaching. So I think FAU is just one of those schools that if you go down there and win, your name's going to come up, especially him, because for what it's worth, I mean, the guy took Texas to a conference championship game, and the guy won a conference with Houston. So I think he'll be definitely getting some phone calls. Moving on really fast, biggest game of the year. I'll go first. I got SMU at Memphis. November 18th. Both of these teams went 7-6 last year, but let me give you a little rundown on SMU. They lost at Maryland by 7. They lost versus TCU by 8. They lost to Cincinnati by 2. They got blown out by UCF and Tulane. But they're 3 plays away from being a 10-win ball club. Memphis, pretty similar scenario. They blew double-digit fourth-quarter leads versus both Houston and East Carolina. They lost to UCF by 7, and they lost to SMU by 3. Both of these teams, my question mark was who in the middle of this conference is going to step up and compete with UTSA and Tulane. Those are the 2. And I think the winner of that game may just find themselves a spot in maybe New Orleans, maybe San Antonio in December. That's what I got. Swaggy, what do you got?
If you're a Memphis fan, you have one hell of a schedule and should be fired up for it. I see them starting out the season 3-0, and then they host Missouri and Boise State back-to-back weeks. And if that were to happen, if they are 5-0 and they have Tulane coming in then the following week to the Liberty Bowl, or sorry, they get a bye week and then they host Tulane. I'm looking at October 13th, Tulane at Memphis, October 13th. That is the American game of the week. I think it can determine the outcome for the conference. Good for Tulane or good for Memphis.
It's a big game. God, Memphis with a bunch of home games in a row, huh? They're
Missouri
at home 5 out of their first
Boise
6.
State. I'm telling you that would be huge. And I already said it last week on the last Mountain West. I think Memphis is going to beat Boise State.
Memphis ought to be pretty good. Murph, what do you got? Biggest game?
Biggest game in this conference, November 25th. San Antonio Roadrunners go to New Orleans to play Tulane. I mean, you talk about 2 of the top teams in the conference have to play that last game of the season. That's going to be an incredible matchup. So look out for that. It's got to determine who makes it into the championship game, I think. Another matchup with an American team versus a Sun Belt matchup that I think is going to be just off the chain. ECU goes to Boone September 16th. That game is going to be absolutely rocking. Talk about a big rivalry between those 2 schools. I feel like all the Carolina schools just hate each other. So anytime they play each other, it's going to be a good game. So look out for that game. Little American Sun Belt matchup.
I like it. Tip, what about you? Biggest game?
Biggest conference game. I actually have 2, but it's the same team. FAU. They host both UTSA and Tulane at home. If you win both of those games, you have a real good shot at playing for the American Championship at the end of the year. Biggest group of 5 versus Power 5 game. I talked about it earlier. SMU at Oklahoma, week 2.
Yeah, let's hear this rationale.
Okay,
Tip. What do you got?
go.
Yeah.
Oklahoma last season, they were 6-7. Down year for them last year. And their head coach is Brent Venables. Is that right? His first year. Oklahoma, they lost their top wide receiver and their top running back from last season. Now let's go to the other side of the ball. Oklahoma's defense was last in the Big 12 on pass defense. Their defense against the run was very inconsistent all year. And they allowed the most first downs per game out of any team in all of college football last year. I think SMU's offense has a legit shot at taking advantage of this. And this game could turn into a high-scoring shootout. And anytime you get into games like that, SMU with that offense, they got a chance to win that game.
As smart
Like
as
what
you
you're
are
showing.
in your statistics, and you have Brent Venables, who is a Clemson legend, having one of the best defenses of all time. You think that he's not going to recruit and bring players in to make that defense any better? I'm surprised Oklahoma wins by 31 points.
No.
What?
It's smooth. It's smooth.
Moo.
Jesse,
SMU absolutely crushed the transfer portal.
Yeah,
Yes,
well,
they
Now
did.
they got to make it all mesh and come together. 31 points?
Probably
Not happening there.
I'm being a realist this year. I'm over it. I'm tired of being like this bandwagon jumper. I'm trying to win some money this year. I
That
ain't
ain't how
going
you gonna
hard
do it.
anymore. No more heart.
Speaking of winning, let's talk about Prize Picks really fast. Use our code GOFG. Download the app. They'll match your first time deposit up to $100. You know, Freddie Freeman was one base away from me getting like a solid $400 winner the other night on Tuesday. He didn't get it, so I won $40. So not bad. You know, hey, still in the plus, still in the green, but I got pretty fired up. I was going to use that to spend down at one of these games we go to, but didn't happen for me. But anyway, download the Prize Picks app. Use our code GOFG. They'll match you a free $100. Let's go dark horse, boys and girls. Swag Bear, go to you first. Who you got?
I love SMU. I really think that this year, I'm just kidding. No,
I
I
was
do think
about to
SMU's
say.
I think
I
listen,
was going with it.
I feel bad because I know SMU is probably going to play them a good game. Oklahoma, they haven't as of late been actually playing to their potential. They always try to play down to their opponent. Going back to Tulane when they were at 2 games, and what was that Spencer Rattler? So anyway, SMU, it probably won't be 31 points. Dark horse for the American Conference. I'm really excited for this team. I think Memphis is going to have a bounce back year. I like the Memphis Tigers. Seth Hennigan, in my opinion, is probably going to be the best quarterback in the American Conference. He feels like he's been there forever, but he's been there for 4 years. Defense, they were the 4th best in the American Conference last year. They had 22 takeaways. Majority of those guys are coming back, including the top edge rusher and Jalen Allen. Running backs were stacked at Memphis. You have Javon Ducker had led the team last year in touchdowns, and then Brandon Thomas, he got hurt last year, but he's coming back. Transfer Blake Watts from Old Dominion, 2,000 yards in 2 seasons. So the offense should be stacked, and I think they're going to be undefeated when they meet Tulane in Week 6, and the winner of that game is going to determine if I think Tulane can if Memphis can make a push towards the conference championship.
I like Memphis a lot. I think you're right. I think the offense is going to be very, very high powered. They got to figure out how to win close games. I mean, if they would have done that last year, they would have been in that conversation. But I love Memphis. I think they're top 3 or 4 in the conference for sure. Murph, dark horse for you. Who you got?
Browse. Nice set of Hooters you got there. The Owls.
The Owls.
The
Which
Temple Owls.
Temples
are my dark horse. I really do think with 9 returning starters back coming on defense, if that defense can figure out a way to generate turnovers and get extra possessions for E.J. Warner in this offense, I think E.J. Warner's going to have a breakout season. He's going to continue to get better. He's got to limit the turnovers some, but they're going to get the ground game running. That defense is going to start holding some offenses to, 25, 26 points. And I absolutely love their schedule. Check this out. Open up with Akron at home. They go to Rutgers. That's a winnable game. Norfolk State. I think they're 3-0 to start the season, Sprouse. Then they play Miami at home.
They host Miami.
They host Miami.
Old Big East rivalry, huh?
Sure is. And then they go at Tulsa. The Owls might be 5-0 until they play San Antonio, who also comes. So I'm just saying, I love their schedule. I think E.J. Warner's going to be great. I think that defense is going to figure out a way to get turnovers. Just keep an eye out. It's a long shot. Keep an eye out for the Temple Owls.
Do you think, let me run this by you real fast. You got 3 Owls in this conference, Rice, Temple, and FAU. You think Temple is the best Owls in 2023?
I think they have the potential shot based off of their schedule, and they avoid Tulane.
Let the Owls out.
And they avoid Tulane. They don't have to play Tulane this year. So I think FAU is going to be really good. I really do. I think I love their quarterback that's coming in, but I don't know. I just think I love E.J. Warner. You put me on him last year, and I was like, this kid's got some moxie. I like this kid. I loved his dad. So.
Yeah, his dad was a big time player. All right, Tip. Dark horse for you. Who you got?
My dark horse is the North Texas Mean Green. They got a new head coach coming in, Eric Morris. He was the head coach at Incarnate Word for 4 years from 2018 to 2021. In those 4 years, he went 24-18 and he won 2 Southland Conference titles. He was the offensive coordinator and QB coach at Washington State last season. Back in his college days, he played wide receiver for Texas Tech from 2004 to 2008. He was born in Littlefield, Texas, so he's coming back to Texas. I think this North Texas job is a perfect fit for him. I think he's going to have a lot of connections in recruiting, and I think he can have some success there. I talked about him earlier, but they got the quarterback Chandler Rogers. He's transferring in from Louisiana Monroe. That offense already has a great running game. They have a great offensive line, and they have great receivers. And their defense is bringing experience back from last season. The one thing, though, they might have the toughest 4-week stretch of conference games out of any team in the American. Listen to this 4-week stretch. Week 8 at Tulane. Week 9, Memphis. Week 10, UTSA. Week 11 at SMU. That is a brutal 4-week stretch there. The one positive thing is those away games, they don't have to travel too far. They're just going to New Orleans and then to SMU. But if they come out of that 4-week stretch and win 3 of those games, I think they have a legit shot at playing possibly for the conference championship.
Well, Tip, here's what I had on North Texas. That stretch of those 4 games is really brutal. However, before that, they got a chance to be 5-1 or potentially 6-0 going into that game because they play Cal, which I have no idea how Cal is going to be this year, but they play them at home. Then they're at FIU. Then they're at La Tech. Then they got a bye week. Then they're at, I think that's Abilene Christian. They're home versus Abilene Christian. Sorry. Then they're at Navy. Then they're home versus Temple. So they may be sitting there at 6-0, but then, yeah, I don't see them getting out of that gauntlet. I mean, they're lucky to win one of those games, but then I think they go to Tulsa. I don't think Tulsa's going to be very good. And then they're home versus UAB, which I think, to be honest with you, I think UAB is about the biggest question mark in this entire conference. I have no idea. All the media people think they're going to be bad, but I don't see it. They were pretty good last year. I don't know.
And if I could chime in real quick, Sprouse, I think UAB is going to be good. Like you said, I don't know how good, but Jacob Zeno's their quarterback. But you think you put him and he looked decent at times last year, and then other times he didn't. When Hopkins wasn't in, but you think you put him with Trent Dilfer, he's got to improve that position. Jesse mentioned Jermaine Brown, the running back. He's an incredible running back, and his stats for being a backup last year, behind McBride being one of the top backs in the country, he still had phenomenal numbers. So, and then we got our boy Gilstrap over there. He talked about swoops and those guys in the back end. I think UAB is going to be good. I don't see why they wouldn't, unless Dilfer just completely flops, but I don't see it.
I think everybody in this conference could be a bowl team. I mean, everybody won't be, but I think everybody's good enough to be. It's just going to be, you're going to see those close games that come back to hurt 2 or 3 teams. They're going to end up looking really bad. My dark horse, yeah, I like North Texas. That's a good pick. I'm going Florida Atlantic, FAU. Tom Herman, I think that guy is obviously gets the most out of his guys. They get Casey Thompson at quarterback from Nebraska. Cozy Perry, I talked about him last year. He was just a turnover machine, and that hurt FAU a lot. They also get Daniel Richardson from Central Michigan. So if Thompson doesn't work out, I think he's going to be the starter. But Richardson wasn't a bad player at Central Michigan. FAU always loaded with talent. And I talked about it earlier. Tom Herman took Houston to an 11-1 record in his very first year, and then he took Texas to a 9-3 record and a Big 12 championship appearance in the second year. They get Tulane and UTSA at home, like I think Tip mentioned earlier. I think they're right in the mix of middle of the pack that could contend. I don't think they're quite there yet with the top 2 or 3 teams, but I think they're close. real quick before we go into our picks, there's a couple teams we didn't say anything about. I want East Carolina to be good. I think they're stuck. I think they're stuck. They lose Holton Ahlers. They lose, they lost Keaton Mitchell before. I A lot of that caller was high on the quarterback. I mean, he's a big kid, but I don't know.
There's a lot of question marks.
Yeah. And then Navy, that's a new coach too. What are you gonna be at Navy? You just got to get a quarterback that's fantastic at running the option and can make plays. That's Navy. I mean,
their over unders at 6.5. So I mean, I think very, very possible for them to to win a bowl or to get to a bowl game this year, but we'll see.
It just
Yeah.
seems high to me.
Yeah, it seems
it does. I mean, they
they've
do
won
have a
3
tough
games
schedule.
like the last 3 or 4 years, haven't they? They always beat UCF though. What about Tulsa? Somebody got on Twitter saying I'm sleeping on Tulsa or something. They got another one with a new coach. Just
not me this year.
Yeah, you're not on the Tulsa bandwagon this year.
Nope, so I should have a pretty good year then.
Yeah, yeah. So guys, I am disappointed in myself. I really wanted the South Florida Bulls to be my dark horse. I got some stuff on the South Florida Bulls. Here's the deal. They bring in Tennessee's offensive coordinator, okay? The guy can coach offense, but they didn't need an offensive guy. They scored all kinds of points. They needed somebody on defense. And they were the worst defense in the country last year, 517 yards per game. That's embarrassing. I mean, that is just sad. And I don't think bringing in an offensive coordinator from the Tennessee Volunteers is going to do it. They get Todd Orlando, veteran DC, whatever. But I want them so bad to be good. Listen to this stat. Okay, you guys ready for this? In 2018, the South Florida Bulls started out the season 7-0 and were ranked number 21 in the country. They then lost the rest of their games that season. And since that point, they are 8-42, and 4 of those 8 wins are against FCS opponents. I mean, how is that possible?
It's a great year to turn around, though, because they do host
is.
Alabama this year, and you just never know what can happen.
Well, Tip said if any of these teams go undefeated, let me tell you something. If the South Florida Bulls run the table, they're in.
They might be the number 1 seed in the playoffs.
They are in. This is 2007 all over again. They are a top 5 team. I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. I want them to be good. I think they'll be better, but better could be 3 wins. So, let's get to our picks. Swag Bear, who's playing for it? Who's winning it?
This was the most difficult analysis I've done so far for these conferences because I really just don't know. Because I'm a what if guy. I know everybody because I'm like, well, if this happens, if this happens, if this happens. Go back to what I said earlier, Tulane. If they beat South Alabama, and then even though win or lose to Ole Miss, I think they'll have a good year. But South Alabama is going to determine that season for them. I just feel that for Tulane. Memphis, I love their schedule. A lot of big home games. They don't have to play UTSA either. They don't have to worry about that awesome offense. That being said, here's my what if analysis. If Tulane can beat South Alabama, I think they're going to win throughout the conference, and they will play UTSA last week of the season. UTSA will beat Tulane, but a Frank Harris special in a conference championship game, he will lose to Tulane back to back. I mean, they'll play each other back to back. Frank Harris will choke. Tulane will win the conference. But if Memphis is able to run the table, if they beat Boise State, they beat Tulane. I see Memphis getting into the championship game, and then they will play UTSA, and UTSA will beat Memphis.
So what's your pick?
My pick is I think Tulane and UTSA are going to play each other because Frank Harris is going to have that time to redeem himself and win a conference championship, which, I mean, he's done. But will he win the American Conference Championship? No, he'll lose.
So Tulane over UTSA.
Tulane over UTSA. A lot of what if analysis, though, because I like Memphis' schedule. I really like Memphis. I just don't have the cojones to put them in the championship game on paper.
Murph, what you got?
think when it came down to this conference, there's so many teams that honestly could come out of like left field and like they wouldn't be a surprise. Because at 14 teams now, I mean, it's really anybody's ball game. But I think the two best teams going into the season at this point, and it's because of their quarterbacks and it's because of their coach. You have UTSA and you have Tulane. I think they're going to meet in the championship game. And I think that the Roadrunners win the American Conference after winning 2 previous Conference USA titles. I think they get an American title.
Do you think UTSA beats Tulane back to back?
No, I think Tulane gets them first, and then San Antonio gets them in the championship game.
That's actually what I put here. I put loser of the game last week of the season will win the championship. That's honestly what I put. But I really feel like that's going to be.
But then
Tulane.
you said, then you said Tulane was going to win both.
No. I said back to back, but I meant. Listen, dang it, rewind it if you're listening. All I said was last week of the season, Frank Harris will beat Tulane, but he'll choke in the conference championship to Tulane in the championship game.
Okay, I don't think that's what you said, but that's okay.
Rewind the tape.
I'll check the receipts after.
We'll check it. That's
fine. Throwing the red flag out there. I'm challenging that.
We'll challenge it. We'll go back and look. Tip, who you got? Are we going across the board here? UTSA and Tulane?
Charlotte 49ers. He's got the hat on.
He's got the hat on.
Poggi is gone.
Don't sleep on Biff Poggi. They are getting 3 wins over under. Dude, that's
a slap in the face.
It is. It really is. They are getting disrespected. They are absolutely going to win more than 3 games. Book it. Like Jesse said, 6 or 7 wins this year. I think that can easily happen this year. But talked about it a little bit earlier. Jesse likes Memphis's schedule. I love SMU's schedule mainly because they don't have to play UTSA or Tulane. But SMU has a lot of question marks on defense. They're bringing in some people from the portal, but is it going to mesh? Is it going to work out? Their defense was not the best last season at SMU, but the offense helped them out in a lot of those games because of how good they are and how good they're going to be this season. But again, just big question mark on defense for SMU. So we are going across the board for all 4 of us. I have Tulane versus UTSA. And I think I agree with Jesse. I think whoever wins that last regular season game is not going to win the conference championship. I think Tulane wins the last week. And Jesse, I got to do a fact check on you. Frank Harris has not won a bowl game yet, but he is 2-0 in conference championships, and he's about to be 3-0.
It doesn't matter, Tip. It doesn't matter.
It does matter.
3-0.
He's going to be 3-0. UTSA Roadrunners are your AAC champions in 2023.
The guy can beat Tennessee, then I'll be impressed.
See, I think that Tulane lost a little too much on defense and a little too much at the skill position on offense. So that I think that UTSA is going to beat them in New Orleans the last week of the season and be in the conference championship game. However, I'm looking at a team out of Dallas, Texas with a right tackle, 6'9", 337 pounds, transfer from Missouri. I'm looking at a left tackle, 6'8", 318. I'm looking at a transfer portal that is just insane. I'm looking at Rhett Lashley brings in transfers on the O-line alone, transfer from Texas, from Miami, from Missouri, and from Texas A&M. Again, they do not play Tulane or UTSA in the regular season. So Tulane and UTSA, you lose that one game, you might be out if SMU runs the table. And I talked about it earlier, the close games they had against all these teams last year. I'm picking SMU to go to the conference championship game against UTSA, and SMU wins it. Pony up Dallas.
I like that pick.
Book
Makes
it.
sense.
That's what I got. SMU, something a little different. Yeah, screenshot it, write it down.
I'm really curious. Can Preston Stone be that guy? Can he be the guy? Can he be Tanner Mordecai?
No, but he doesn't have to be Tanner Mordecai.
Yeah,
He got weapons all over the place. Mordecai now, where's he at? Wisconsin,
I believe.
With Luke Fickell.
Yeah. Wisconsin's been trying to find a quarterback for 2 decades, and they ain't found one yet.
Ever since Russell Wilson.
Yeah. But anyway, that's all we got for the American Conference preview. Next week, we talk Sun Belt, which could be, I think it's even more interesting than this conference was. Tomorrow, we will be live from Murfreesboro, live from fall camp with Middle Tennessee. And then Friday, we will have interview with Colorado State offense coordinator Matt Mumme. We thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you do like the show, make sure you go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Give us a subscribe, a like, a 5-star rating and review, a comment. Tell your family and friends all about us. Follow us on all the social media platforms at Group of Five Guys, or go to groupof5guys.com and get you some swag. We got football in about 2.5 weeks. We'll see y'all.